Hey there friends, David Paulides, Canada Missing Project. This is our executive producer, Huck. She's a little confined today. She's feeling a little confined because we have about 3 inches of rain in the last 8 hours. Yes, it's raining very hard. And certain times I'll let her out in the rain and she'll go get all muddy and then we'll take a bath. But she's had a bath fairly recently, so we're not going to go out there and get all muddy right now, okay? Okay? She goes, okay, Dad. That's a good girl. And she's all fluffy and pretty right now, so we're going to keep her in and... Oh, I know. Yeah. You're still waking up. I know. You're a good girl, though. Yes, you're a good girl. So we're going to get going with the show. And it's a biggie today, folks. One of the bigger ones you've seen in a while. This took me about a week to put together. So go get a coffee, tea, put your feet up, almond croissant, poppy seed muffin, whatever you need, and sit back and relax. Somebody asked me the other day, Dave, how long does it take you to put these things together? A normal 30-minute YouTube takes me about 5 hours. Because I go through, I do the research a second or third time on the case, try to find how many different sources I can get, and then when I write it up, it's not the same way as writing a book story. I have to lay it out in almost a speaking segment, like I give a presentation at a conference. So it's entirely different. So 5 hours. And I do 3 to 4 of those a week. So that's 20 hours a week that I commit to this. Now, next week we're doing a huge rollout. Huge. Mega huge. Mega huge. It's been in the works for 8 months. Way back when I told you that we had some things working. Things get done slowly because I have to entertain and use contractors on the outside for things I really don't understand. And I promised you that some things were coming, and some of you have kept harping on me, well, when's it happening? What are you going to do? It's really done right now. But the person that's going to help me roll it out, they're involved in another big project and they're gone this week, so we got to do it next week. So yeah, good things are happening. The movie, Missing 411 National Parks. Tremendous progress. Tremendous. I've told you before that sometimes I believe, and I truly believe this, that when I get going down a path, it's like someone grabs me by my nose and says, take this path, take that path, do this, do that. And it all falls into place. And that's the way the movie's been going. And powers to be, Ben, Alan Adadero, whoever's helping me, God bless you. Scott Carpenter, I don't know who it is, but I don't think I'm smart enough to do what's been happening here lately. But good crew, everything's good. Now the first week in September, I'm going to be in Vernal, Utah, Phenomicon, P-H-E-N, Phenomicon. One of the best conferences I've been to in a long time. Went last year, got it invited back this year. I'm going to be speaking on Saturday, the big day where the heavy hitters are there. I feel very fortunate that they allowed me to speak on Saturday. And Skinwalker Ranch crew will be there right after I speak. And I'm going to have a huge knockdown presentation for you. I'm working on it even right now. And those are the biggies that are happening. But folks, I can't tell you too much, but there's been a secret project going on for the last 2 years. Top secret. Mega secret. Huck doesn't even know about it. And it should have been done a year and a half ago. It wasn't, but we're nearing completion. In the end of this year, this isn't the movie that I was talking to you about, Missing 411 National Parks. This is something else. Huge. Huge. It will make big news in our arena. And I've been working on that as well. So even though Dave looks like he's been sitting on his butt doing nothing other than YouTube videos, there's been a lot going on. And in the next 6 months, you're going to see this rollout happen. And you're going to go, wow, yeah. So let's get going on today because it is a lengthy segment. It's about a cluster of disappearances in southern British Columbia, kind of near the US border, kind of the southwest area of British Columbia. And I wrote about several of these cases in Missing 411 Canada. And then there's a couple of cases in here that I didn't hear about up until about 6 months ago. And when I heard about them, it all just came together. So before you start making a knee-jerk reaction to some of the things I talked to you about, there's 5 cases today. And I want you to see if you can understand how they all come together. Here we go. First incident involves a man named Christopher Couture. It's Christopher, 25 years old, reported missing May 19th, 2019. He was originally a resident of Edmonton, Alberta, where he grew up and lived with his family. And as he was getting older, he had a difficult time finding work. And so in January 2019, he moved to the lower mainland of BC. And late in January, he found work with a roofing company in BC, kind of that greater Vancouver area. In Maple Ridge, essentially an outlying community east of Vancouver. He went to work for a roofing company, and on January 25th, that day, he went to a gym in Burnaby to work out, and then he went to work for this roofing contractor. This is going to sound a little airy-fairy without a lot of concrete. That's the way the story goes. Because even the cops and the family aren't sure what's going to happen. I'm going to explain it to you. So the 25th, he goes to work with the roofing company. And then after he comes off work, and then January 26th, on the 26th, he's seen leaving Royal Columbian Hospital in New Westminster. The mother said she doesn't have the reason why he was at the hospital, but after he left, he made a purchase at Save On Foods in New Westminster. So that's a little questionable. Did he get hurt while he was roofing? I don't think so, because he was working in Maple Ridge, and Maple Ridge has a hospital. And the hospital he went to is quite a distance west towards Burnaby. Well, Christopher drove a gray Saturn. And on January 27th, the day after he was at the hospital, his gray Saturn is observed by a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer who was off duty, parked at the Elk View Trail to Elk Mountain, kind of in southern BC, somewhat near the Washington border. The RCMP officer noticed that the rear window is broken out, made a notation in his mind, wrote down the information. Now at this point, nobody knew anything that was wrong with Christopher. But on January 27th, that was the first time that his Saturn was found outside of the city area where he was working. Several people, reporters, since he disappeared, asked his mom what's the reason about why he was in the hospital. And she kind of bluntly said, that's unimportant. The important thing is he's missing. So fast forward almost 5 months, May 17th, 2019, the RCMP notifies the family that that gray Saturn had been towed. And now the family of Christopher reports him missing. So my question is, has there been 5 months with no contact between the family and Christopher? And then once they find the car had been towed and it was in this awkward place near Elk Mountain, then they report him missing? This is very sketchy. So when the reporter asked the mom, this is the mom, why Chris would have gone to the hospital the day after he went to work, again, the answer was blunt, curt, maybe. It doesn't matter. What matters is he's missing. Okay. I'm going to walk you down this path, and I want you to understand. If a relative in the family is watching, I want you to understand and tell you how the police would think about an answer like that. It does matter. Was he injured in a carjacking? And suspects took the car and drove it down into Elk Mountain area. That's number one. Number two, that following day, we're guessing he was supposed to go to work as a contractor on the roofing job. But that next day he went to a hospital. Did he have a mental health crisis? Number three, was the car stolen and dumped at the trailhead? Important. If that was the case, the car would be a crime scene. Did the RCMP handle it as a crime scene? Did they check for blood in the car? Was Christopher hurt in the car? All logical questions that haven't been answered by anybody. That first day, did Chris finish a full day of work at the construction site? No response from anybody. Number 10, what did the construction foreman say about Chris's first day on the job? And what was his mental state? Was he a hard worker? Did he not want to be there? Was he suffering some kind of breakdown? All important points. And why is that? Well, if Chris was suffering some type of mental illness, well, then I would start checking halfway houses, hospices. And what I mean by that is housing for young people. And then there's a circle of homeless people off of Hastings Avenue in Vancouver that's world famous. I mean, thousands of people live down there. Should we be looking there? The hospital he went to was 40 minutes west and closer to Burnaby that he went to. There was a much closer hospital with an emergency room in Maple Ridge that he didn't go to. So does that say that his injury wasn't physical and urgent? And it kind of tells me that this wasn't a life and death situation, because if it was, he would have went to the one in Maple Ridge. You got a scratch, Huck? You got a scratch? I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay. There have been multiple searches in the area where the car was found. They found nothing. The family posted a $10,000 reward. I think the family is trying to curtail the talk about what may be wrong with Chris. I don't understand that. Maybe they think that it's demeaning to say someone had a certain type of illness or mental health or something. Or they're afraid that people aren't going to search. Au contraire. Searchers are professionals. They'll search no matter what. You will find a lot of support in this world for people that are missing and their family are looking for them. You're looking at one right here. I will help no matter what. I don't care what the reason. But being curt or blunt or trying to avoid the topic isn't going to help you, and it's not going to help find Chris. Again, this is Chris. He originally was driving a gray Saturn. He was last seen sometime around May 2019. It's been about 6 years. Hope he's found. Now, the area that Chris's car was found in was essentially right in the middle of this cluster of missing people. Very, very rural area. I don't see that car being stolen and driven into that location and being dumped. Because when crooks do that, they've got to get out of there some way. Now, this is pretty far in the middle of nowhere. Next case involves a young man named Timothy Delahaye, 29 years old, missing May 14th, 2019. Oh. That's just 5 days away from May 19th. 2019 in Chris's case. That's right. Timothy, 6'4", slim. He's a resident of North Vancouver. He was described as a very experienced outdoorsman and hiker. This is a picture of Timothy when he was getting dropped off at a location to take a hike. Now, he came from a large family. He was number 9 of 10 kids. And Timothy had previously visited a Buddhist retreat in Maple Ridge, Washington. Maple Ridge, Washington, about 5 to 10 miles south of the Canadian border. He told his family that he was going to hike across the border from Canada to visit the retreat again. He had a conversation with his sister, Jean Wolfe, and she confirmed that that was his intention. On April 29th, 2019, he was dropped off on Frost Road near the border, just like I just showed you, carrying a carrying a backpack and supplies. On May 1st, he called his family on the British Columbia side of the border and said he was fine and he was hiking into the retreat. Now again, he was dropped off on Frost Road near Cultus Lake. That'll become important in a second. Now the family hadn't heard from Tim for a while and determined he never made it to the retreat and reported him missing to RCMP. Now, why would the RCMP be interested in this? Well, number one, it's against the law. It's against federal law in Canada and the United States. You cannot cross that border from the US to Canada, Canada to the US, unless you do it at a port of entry. You're committing a crime. Well, the RCMP heard this, they were right on it. And they searched extensively from that Cultus Lake, Frost Road, south, ground pounders, drones, helicopters, found nothing. And then they searched his cell phone because there was a crime. They confirmed his calls were made on the British Columbia side of the border. And then after he made that last call, there was no further traffic or on the cell. And the RCMP stated it was their belief that he had made it into the United States and out of Canada. Okay. If you turn your cell phone off, you're not going to be hitting off of transponders. But what a lot of people don't know is on the US side and the Canadian side of the border, they have buried in the ground, you won't see them if you walk by them, these little devices, and they track movement in the ground, microscopic movement in the ground. So if you or I, a 200-pound male, walks across an area, it's going to show the direction of travel based on these things going off underground that something big is walking across. It's true, if a grizzly bear went through there, they would set him off as well. But the Border Patrol sends units to look in those areas. That's why it's hard to get across these areas without being seen or heard or caught. Well, they never said if they had these transponders going off, and they never said if they had caught anybody in response to this. But let's just say Timothy was never apprehended and never found. RCMP did contact Whatcom County in Washington and notified them that they had a person coming into that area from Canada. I'm sure Whatcom County didn't really care. Here's why. Tim wasn't moving drugs, he wasn't moving firearms, he wasn't doing anything illegally other than crossing the border in an area that he wasn't supposed to. That was Huck yawning. And not high on their list of crimes that they wanted to pursue. On May 24th, the Chilliwack RCMP stated that they had taken the disappearance seriously. Their spokesperson was a man named Mike Rail, and he said that Tim is still considered missing and they still have an open file on it. The following day, May 25th, Kathy, Tim's mom, spoke to the press and said something is definitely wrong. Tim had done this before. He's a big backpacker, knows his way around the woods very well. Something is really wrong because he's never missed in his years after he moved away from home from calling me on Mother's Day. That's a good sign. And she said he didn't call. And she knows something tragically is wrong. Well, I think Mother's intuition probably as well. It was May 25th, 2019. June 18th, 2025. 6 years later. The RCMP made a renewed request for information on Timothy Delahaye. I ran his name through multiple systems in the United States, he doesn't come up anywhere. If he did come into the States, it doesn't appear that he tried to get a work permit or he did work. If he did work, maybe he worked for the Buddhist retreat for just food and lodging. I don't know. There does not appear that he ever made it to the Buddhist retreat on the second time. Now, Timothy disappeared about 8 miles from where Christopher Couture disappeared. But the next case I'm going to talk to you about, Timothy disappeared in almost the exact same spot as the next case I'm going to tell you. The next case happened October 3rd, 2019. Yeah, 5 months after Timothy disappeared, almost the exact same spot. A lady named Valentina Kushnariva. This is Valentina, 82 years old. Missing October 3rd, 2019, 5'1", 100 pounds. She had a residence at 4300 Frost Road, near Cultus Lake. She was last seen by a family member on that same day. She told the family member that she was going to go out and pick mushrooms, something that she did regularly. She took her bucket, went out into the woods. She knew the area around her house like you know your own backyard. Relatives said there's no way she'd get lost. Now, her property is right on the border of Cultus, that's C-U-L-T-U-S Lake, Provincial Park, and a place called Lindell Beach. Now, Valentina was healthy, wasn't overweight, was active for 82 years old. People said that she regularly took hikes around her house. She liked the outdoors, loved the area. Well, on October 4th, she was reported missing to the RCMP. Chilliwack and Mission Search and Rescue searched all night that first night. They get a call from her relatives that they can't find her. 82-year-old woman, they're nervous. So they go all out to find her, which was good and it was appropriate. October, it could have been a hot day, but the reality was it probably got pretty chilly at night. They stayed on scene the next day on the 5th, and they searched search and rescue organizations and RCMP. On the 6th, search and rescue organizations and canines were brought in to search that area. And they continued searching for 8 more days in a massive effort to find Valentina. October 14th, search and rescue is suspended. The family went out and knocked on doors and asked individuals living within 2 miles of Valentina if they would voluntarily go out and search on their own in the area of their house, in the area behind their house, etc. An organization called the Wings of Mercy. They are drone operators, and they came in and droned that entire area for the family. Found nothing. The family requested that the RCMP come back and do one more search. RCMP said, okay, we'll come in on October 27th with cadaver dogs. This was smart. With no food, no water for that amount of days, she's not going to make it. They bring in cadaver dogs, they search the entire day, they find nothing. Valentina, never found. The bucket she was carrying, never found. Now that's 3 people within an 8-mile radius. 8-mile radius. In 5 months. never found. But friends, that is not the end of the story. Oh, no, 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 no. Not by far. This area of southern BC, I'll show this to you. So this is the city of Chilliwack right here. Lake Eric, Harrison Mills, BC. This is the US-Canadian border. This is where Delahaye disappeared, crossing the border. Valentina disappeared, and Couture disappeared. Here to here, 8 miles. There's Cultus Lake right there. Now, if I said, well, that's the end of the story, then we'd all agree, well, that is pretty odd. Oh, but wait a minute, it gets much more strange. In my book, Missing 411 Canada, I talked about a couple of super strange disappearances in the exact same area. So these cases happened in 2019. This next case I'm going to talk to you about happened in 2015. Sukhjeet Sagoo. This is he. 20 years old, missing June 5th, 2015. A graduate of Enver Creek Secondary School outside of Vancouver. He was hiking with 2 friends from British Columbia. He was on the Lindeman Lake Trail with his buddies, just having a fun time. They were kind of lollygagging along, not going real fast. He told his friend he was going to run up ahead and meet them at Lindeman Lake. So he ran ahead. They lost sight of him. At the time they lost sight of him, they were just north of Chilliwack Lake. Now it's in that area of Chilliwack Lake that you pick up the trail to go to Lindeman Lake. Now, these guys, all in super good shape, young, healthy, having fun. Well, his friends got to Lindeman Lake, a couple mile easy hike on a very obvious trail. And they started looking around. They can't find Sukhjeet. And they're looking everywhere, calling his name. There's other people out there on the trail. It's a very, very pretty area. Lakes are gorgeous. Lots of rocks, lots of boulders. So they're looking, and they're getting real nervous. There's no cell phone service in this area. Well, it's getting to be 11 o'clock at night now, and they can't find him. They'd already gone back to their car once, thinking maybe he went there. They went back into the woods, and they run into a hiker who's hiking out. And they tell him, hey, we're missing one of our friends. Could you call the RCMP when you go outside the park and get cell reception? He goes, sure. And he does. The man leaves the park, calls the RCMP, and they arrive in the middle of the night. And his friends search till 4 a.m. That's good friends. Pick your friends wisely. They could save your life. Like I said, the trail is very well maintained. You're not going to go off trail thinking, oh, I'm confused. No, that's not going to happen. Well, the next day, the RCMP and Chilliwack Search and Rescue, they put up a helicopter, and in the middle of that next day, they find Sukhjeet under the most unusual of circumstances. So he told his friends that he would meet them at Lindeman Lake. Lindeman Lake ends, the trail keeps going, and there's another lake a couple miles ahead. It's called Green Drop Lake. Helicopter's hovering above these 2 points. And he's hovering above a boulder field, and he sees a body in this giant boulder field. This is exactly the boulder field he was found in. You can see the boulder field is not super steep. It's a little steep, but it's nothing you're gonna, it's not steep enough that you're gonna fall down and roll all the way to the bottom of the hill. So the helicopter is hovering. They call in search and rescue. They find Sukhjeet's body. He's deceased. The commander of Chilliwack Search and Rescue is a man named Doug Frazier. Doug made the following comment. He had fallen. We don't know if the fall was limited to the boulder field or if he had been up higher in the cliffs above the boulder field. Canine teams on the ground did not find his body. Doug later made a statement. He said, all of this is really, really strange. It's just really hard to get lost in this area. The coroner came, took custody of the body, never stated a cause of death, but did state that they were still investigating. Number one, the boulder field is not that steep. One of the periodicals that I got this information from made this statement. All of the circumstances of the disappearance have been deemed highly unusual, as he was found far away from the meeting place and far from the trail. That's true. So the top of that boulder field is far from the trail. The trail's at the bottom of the boulder field next to the lake. He would have had to have climbed up the boulder field, way up to the top. And then there's like a granite cliff up above that. But the people I talked to said that where his body was found doesn't match a point you would land if you jumped or fell from the boulder field. Get my point? So I called Doug Frazier and I emailed him. Refused to answer. Coroner never released a cause of death, never released any of their investigative findings. Suspicious? Highly. Number one, Sukhjeet told his friends he was going to meet them at Lindeman Lake. He had a ride home there. He knew that they were all going to go back that way. Why would he go so far, like miles, further down the trail, hike up a boulder field, take a dangerous position, say, on a cliff, and then fall and die? Does that really sound like something someone's going to do? I don't think so. And the secrecy surrounding this and the lack of transparency, I don't like any of it. And I'm serious, I don't like any of it. Now, the next case I wrote about extensively. So Sukhjeet disappeared June 5th, 2015. August 14th, 2016, the next summer, a man named Gordon Saggu. So there's Sukhjeet Sagoo and Gordon Saggu. Names pronounced almost identical. Now Gordon is 50 years old. He was hiking with a group at a place called Baby Monday Peak. I'm going to show you the map. This is important. This is important. This is Gordon. This is Sukhjeet. Distance apart, 8 miles. Couture. Christopher Couture disappeared. Distance 8 miles. Delahaye and Valentina, distance 9 miles. So there's 5 disappearances, all in the Chilliwack area. One person found. And that one person found was Sukhjeet. Now, let me explain Gordon Saggu. They were in the Keem range of the Fraser Valley. And Gordon was a trail runner. Really good trail runner. He was 50 years old. When he was in his mid-30s, he was grossly overweight. Friends talked about it. Everyone talked about it. He had a life transformation. He started running. Never stopped running. Ran everywhere. And he got lean and healthy. So whenever he could, he would go out trail running. Take friends with him. He was smart. Didn't do it alone. Well, he was hiking with a woman named Cheryl Budai and another friend. And they were on a trail. And as they're on this trail, Gordon tells the group, hey, I'm going to go up here, up the trail a ways and explore a different area. I'll meet you at the end of the trail. Okay. So they see him going down the trail, right like he's supposed to, disappears in the direction where the trail ends. Friends eventually get to the end of the trail. Gordon's not there. But he said he'd be there. Friends searched, yelled, called the RCMP. Friends said that Gordon always had 3 liters of water and his cell phone. Cell phone was never activated that day. When his friends called the RCMP, they got a huge response from Chilliwack Search and Rescue, Coquitlam Search and Rescue, Surrey Search and Rescue, Lions Head Search and Rescue, and air support from the RCMP and the Talon and Valley Helicopter Association. They also had the Lower Mainland Integrated Canine Group there. So they had searches by dogs. And they had over 100 ground pounders. They also had something that I'd never heard of before. They had a radio-controlled plane that had some specialty electronics on it. I don't know what it could have been, maybe a FLIR. Well, they said that the canines turned the search on August 22nd. So it's about 8 days. The family started a GoFundMe page and got $30,000 to continue private searching. That's a big search, folks. 8 days plus private, and they find nothing. And now it's been 9 years, and they still haven't found Gordon? Where did he go? His friends all stated that he was mentally tough and physically sharp. And in very good health. So I want to think about Gordon's trip. He's with his friends. They're on the trail all day. Running, jogging. And he says, I'm going to jog ahead. Point of separation. Everything's good until that point. He was a trail runner. Everything should have been fine. Canines never picked up his scent to find him. Even though friends put him on that trail when they last saw him. So they knew exactly where the point was last seen. Do you believe in coincidence? Gordon Sagoo, Sagoo, and Sukhjeet Sagoo, Saggu. 8 miles apart. And 14 months. So now you got 5 people. Couture, you find his car broken out. Kushnariva, mushroom picker. Delahaye crossing the border to go to a Buddhist retreat. Gordon Sagoo, trail running, disappears when he gets out of sight. And Sukhjeet Sagoo is found deceased under the strangest of circumstances. Now, are all of these related? I think they certainly could be. Not finding anything of any of these people except Sukhjeet makes it highly, highly unusual. Now, people are going to downplay that and say, well, you know, people disappear on the trail, blah, blah, blah. Out of 5 people, you only found 1. And that one person you found, many articles stated that it was the strangest of circumstances. And the coroner won't release the cause of death. And the search and rescue coordinator won't even talk to me and explain the circumstances. Very odd. Very odd. I appreciate you being here. Very much. Comments are always appreciated. Share this on your social media. If you want to get my books, Missing 411 books, you can get those at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. You can follow me on social media. That's right, I'm on X, used to be Twitter, at Can-Am, like Canadian American, at Can-Am Missing. And friends, kindness. Doesn't hurt to be kind to anybody. You might make their day. You might turn them around from extreme depression to extreme happiness. Wouldn't that be a good way to feel for the rest of your day if you could do that? If you know of a disappearance somewhere, or if you know of a case, you can send it to me at missing411@yahoo.com. It's impossible for me to know all about all these cases. Sometimes they only get local press, maybe around your area. So send it to me, missing411@yahoo.com. Thanks for being here. Paulides out.